In today's episode, we're going to talk about how we can learn to do new things as well as how we can plan for success. So if you're wanting to try something new and have a fun new adventure, you're not going to want to miss this. If you have goals in your life that you want to accomplish, you're not going to want to miss this episode. So enjoy the show. Today on the Whole Person Podcast, I get to interview our new friend, David Wood. After life as a consulting actuary for Fortune 100 companies, David built the world's largest coaching business, became #1 on Google for life coaching, discovering that shiny object syndrome is an epidemic among high performers. David coaches rockstar business owners and other entrepreneurs to double their revenue, achieve more in less time, and be more extraordinary in their entrepreneurship journey, as well as with their partners, relationships, friends, and overall, how to be a really great leader. So, David, welcome to the show. How are you?
Evan, thanks for having me on the show. I'm feeling good today and in this moment, and I realize I really like the title of your show, The Whole Person. And I think it's because I feel like I grew up as half a person. And, I was really good with the left brain stuff and systems and numbers and money. And I was missing so much of the human inside me. And I've been catching up the last 25 years. So I'm glad you've dedicated a whole podcast to the whole person.
Yeah, the biggest areas that I've noticed in life are faith, family, finances, friendship, fitness, and fun. And all those kind of interweave into one another, where if one of those is hurt, it can hurt all the others. Yeah. And I've been learning how to live in a balanced way, if you can even say that, to have a whole life. And sometimes so you're going to love this. You know who Mark Cuban is?
Yeah.
So I interviewed him once for 5 minutes, and it's the only audio that I've ever had fail on a podcast, which really stinks. And I asked him about how he lives in balance, and he said something. It's because he was able to live out of balance for so long that created his ability to live in balance. And one of the things that taught me is, sometimes it's okay to live out of balance. Let's say you put more energy and effort into your health, and you might not put as much energy on, let's say, your friendships. But by doing so, you're creating a longer life to sustain those relationships. And that would affect your income. That affects your health. That affects your finances because you're not going to the doctor. So, I've learned that it's not just about trying to be 100% harmony all the time, but it's also about how each one affects the other. And if one area is struggling, maybe you need to give a little more attention to one area that will help lift up another. I don't know.
Yeah, the metaphor that came to my mind is if you got a 3-legged table and one of the legs isn't working, you don't really have a table. All right? There's a lack of integrity. A lot of people come to me because they want more money. That's the starting point. But there are plenty of people who can just help you make more money if that's all you want. I get really interested when they want to be more successful in business. Sure, it's important to them, but there's something in their brain that says, and I want more. I want to grow as a human. I want to grow as a parent, as a partner, as a business partner, and as a leader. I guess I want people to suck the juice out of life and get everything they can. And if all you're doing is money, at some point you're going to wake up and go, what the hell was I doing? Let's have you make more money. Let's have you double your time off. And let's have you grow in the ways that you want to grow in this short time we have on the planet.
So with that being said, how do you do that?
Wow.
That's a very big opening question. That's very open-ended.
Yeah, it's a big question. How do you grow?
So
I'll answer it personally.
Go for it.
At the moment, with something that's happening in my life, I've noticed that I've been interested for years in acting, and I've dabbled. from the age of 23, I think I've dabbled. I've gone and done improv, and I've gone and played guitar and sang on stage, and I've done motivational speaking, and I've done stand-up comedy. I've done a lot of related things, but pure acting, like, what the hell is that? Can I do it? And so I'm diving in right now into that, and I believe this is a way that I can grow right now. There's something in me that says you're going to learn, you're going to grow as you do this. So I just auditioned for a play. They offered me the lead. So now I'm playing Dracula in a play, and I'm sure I'm going to learn so much about that. And then I've joined an improv troupe where an audience member tells a story, and then the troupe says, "Let's watch." And they improvise a playback of the person's life. So that's one thing that I've chosen. Now, listeners, if you're thinking, hey, I want to nudge myself, I want to grow faster than I am, then one great way is to do a course. Do an immersion. Go and do something that's made to have you pop and have breakthroughs. I'm a big fan of the Landmark Forum. That's what I did when I was 26, and it absolutely changed the whole trajectory of my life. So you could do a course. Another thing is get a regular support structure like a coach. I've been coaching for 20-something years for a reason. I believe in it. It works for most people. You get a coach. You could work with a therapist. That can be really great for growth as well. It's usually a bit less action-oriented. It depends on what you want. You could do a mastermind group. Get yourself in a support group where you're constantly challenged. Not just, oh yeah, you're great, but constantly challenged. Like, hey, I want to push you to try this. And then, you know, worst case, like I'm going from the biggest things that can make the biggest difference to the smallest things. You can read books. You can, like right now I'm reading 2 different books on acting, listening to a podcast on acting. I just got a book on accents, on how to do that. So you can educate yourself that way. I think the growth is slower because your patterns are still going to get to live if it's just you. Whereas if you have some kind of outside influence, I think it can be a lot faster.
Yeah, I really like what you're sharing. You've had a lot of different ideas. And, you know, what I'm taking away from that is personal growth requires you to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, right, and to learn. And so, like, whether that's acting or whether that's, hey, you know what? I don't know how to cook. So I'm going to go take a few cooking classes so that I don't have to eat out as much, or watch YouTube videos and follow ingredients. Or, you know what? I need to hire a personal trainer because I don't know how to work out and how to be healthy. You know, it requires not only action, but it requires you to put yourself in an uncomfortable, unfamiliar situation.
Yes, I totally agree. If the comfort zone can get quite uncomfortable over time. If you're just doing what's comfortable. And I went to a rehearsal last night for this improv troupe, and it was scary. She said at one point, okay, thanks for bringing your guitar. You're going to improvise music for this next scene. What? How? I can play 100 songs, but to improvise music for a theatrical scene, never done it. So that was pretty scary. The other thing that came up for me, so I love your point about, I call it practicing deliberate discomfort.
Yeah.
So that's one. The other thing is, how fast do you want to go? And this question has been popping up for me a lot. How fast do you want to go in life? How fast do you want to grow? How fast do you want to grow your business? How fast do you want to grow yourself? With this acting thing, I felt like I was diving in. I went and did an audition. I'm going to be doing 30 hours of rehearsal for one of the projects. That's a week for 5 weeks. So that's 150 hours. And then on top of that, I'm doing this playback theater thing. And then I joined a class. Yeah. And it's a weekly class, and it's 4 hours a week, and it goes up till 11 p.m., which is late for me. So you could look at this and say, oh, you're already going at full pace. And just this morning, I realized, no, this is not, if I really want to go deep in this, doing a 4-hour class where there are 12 other people and I only get to do maybe 2 exercises in front of the group in 4 hours, I'm like, this is glacially slow by some standards. So I just thought I could go and hire a personal acting coach, probably not too expensively, on Zoom, anywhere in the country, and I can practice this stuff. So that instead of getting 1 repetition of a certain exercise in front of the class, I could do 10 a week. And so then when I show up to class, hopefully I'll be a lot better. So I think 2 important points we got here is, one is, are you practicing deliberate discomfort, or are you just staying with what you know? And secondly, how fast do you want to go? Are you okay with the pace you've been going at for the last 2 or 3 years? If you are, great. I think that's wonderful. But if you want to go faster, there are ways to do it.
Yeah. Well, and you were saying something that kind of goes, I have a quote on my wall over here, and it says, your business grows to the extent that you do. And so I have learned in my life and in my business that I constantly have to be growing in order for it to grow. And sometimes that's directly in business, and sometimes that's in another area of my life.
I just realized what happened is I was writing down the time reference to that because I really love this topic and I want to go back to it later. And I totally missed the question. I totally missed what you said.
You're good. I love it. What I was saying is I have a quote on my wall over here, and it says, your business grows to the extent that you do.
Yeah. I have an issue with that. I think the issue, like I've heard that since I started coaching back in like 1998. And they say that to grow your business, grow yourself. And it's really great for marketing for people like me, because I want to work with business people, but I want to work with them on the really juicy stuff. But it sounds, I just don't know if people are going to buy it. I know I didn't buy it. It seems like a little bit tenuous, that thread. And yet I also believe it. I've been growing myself since 1996 when I did the Landmark Forum. That really opened me up. I've gone and sat with teachers. I've done things that would make your hair curl, like really scary stuff. And I believe that who I am today is a function of all that personal growth. Now, has it meant that I make more money? Has it meant that my business is more successful? Well, I feel absolutely confident that Jack Canfield from Chicken Soup would not have written the foreword to my book if I had not done all that growth. If I'd been the guy that I was at 27, and sure, without the growth, without all that work, I would have expanded, I would have grown. Life happens. It's almost impossible not to grow at all, but it would have been so much slower. I'd probably be still working with people and making more money, but I wouldn't have John Gray from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus endorsing my book. I wouldn't have Jack writing the foreword. I wouldn't be nominated to the Transformational Leadership Council with people like Jack and John and Marianne Williamson, presidential candidate. I wouldn't have had those things happen had I not grown myself. And now I look around at the friends that I have, and I'm just amazed. I'm like, these people love me and want to be with me, and I would not have this circle of friends. I'd have a different circle of friends.
Yeah.
I'd have a different circle of entrepreneurs that I respect and who respect me and support me. I got one person said, I'm going to send an email for you twice a year promoting your coaching, because I want to support you and I believe in what you do. Every time that email goes out, I get flooded with inquiries and clients. Would that happen if I wasn't who I was? I don't think so. So I guess I'm making the case for myself right now and for others. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe, you know what, if I grow myself, I'll make more money. But I don't think you can lose. Like, get someone who's going to work with you on the business stuff, but get someone who's going to work with you also on growth. And then you might find, oh, wow, my relationship with my kids is totally transformed right now. That's amazing. I didn't even see that coming. And oh, hey, my partner's so much happier with me. And I'm so much more expressed. I'm speaking up in places that I wasn't before. I'm not tolerating as much as I used to. And I'm making more money. Am I sure that they're connected? Who cares?
Gotcha. One of the things that, as you're talking about growth, focus is also something really important to growth. And I feel like, a lot of people struggle in that area. And personally, so like, I have my real estate business, I have my podcast, and I have a ministry I just started. I love my life and I love having those three things in it. And I love doing those three things. I couldn't imagine not having those things in it, because they're things that I've strived to reach and have for so long. And I've finally reached at a place where, wow, I'm doing three things that I've always wanted to do. And I love doing it. But now that I'm on this side of the fence and I'm there and I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, I can see how I could spread myself too thin, and I'm not clearly focused and intentional in the areas that I need to be to grow all three, because each one takes its own massive amount of work. But yeah, I have three things that take a massive amount of legwork to get growing. And so my question to you is this: what do I do with that? I feel fulfilled because I'm finally doing three things that I'm extremely passionate about. And now I want to grow those three things. But I feel like my time is very competitive between the three.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I love that you found three things that really light you up and that matter to you. And coaching generally, I think, can be broken into two broad buckets. One, what do you really want? And for some people, that's easy. They know. For some people, they don't know. Sounds like you know. You know what fulfillment looks like for you. So that's awesome. The second bucket is how. How are we going to do it? And what I think I'm hearing from you is that you would like to progress faster than you are at the moment. And is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, great.
In those areas.
Yeah. Now that's important because some people don't. And that's fine. I respect that. If you're really happy with the pace that you're going, you're happy with your what? So you know where you're heading, great. And if you're happy with the pace, wonderful. Now, if you want to go faster, that's where it gets really interesting to me, because I'm a systems geek. I'm like, all right, what's it going to take? So let's talk about some principles that can help Evan go faster. And this will apply probably to most of people listening. And I have a cheat sheet that we can give away at the end of the call of this episode that'll have some things we won't have time to cover. Number one, we've got to get clear on the what. So you've already done that. That's like 12 months out. Well, maybe you haven't. Maybe you've got these things in your life, but we've got to know what success looks like, say 12 months out. I think it's a good chunk of time. And you might pick a business goal, listeners. You might pick 2 business goals and 1 personal. You might have 3 business goals and 3 personal. Totally up to you. But if you got 20, then I'm going to ask you to prioritize them and pick your top 3 to 6 and put the rest in a drawer. Otherwise, we fall back into the trap of being too scattered. 20 goals is kind of the same as having 100 goals, is the same as having 1,000.
Let me ask you this then. Is that, let's say we narrow it down, instead of having multiple goals in all 3 of those categories, I guess what I'm trying to say is some people will be like, okay, pick one thing for, like, say, ministry, and you just focus on your ministry, and then you forget podcasting and real estate. Well, I can't do that. So am I hearing you say, okay, pick one goal in each of those 3 things for 12?
Yeah, I think that's how I'd probably do it. Look, some people are quite happy, like there was one point in my life where the book was not getting written. I was writing a book. It wasn't getting written. And so I decided for 30 days, until 4 o'clock every day, I would touch nothing that wasn't book. All I could touch was the book. I couldn't even speak. I wasn't going to release my energy. And that was really fun for me. That was wonderful. Some people don't have the luxury to do that. And for entrepreneurs, it can be very hard to pick one thing. So Thomas Leonard, the father of modern coaching, said, don't try and get an entrepreneur to focus on one thing, but try and get them to focus on 3. And so, yeah, you could pick, okay, these are the 3 areas. What does success look like in each of these areas in 12 months? You could have 3 really solid goals. And if you wanted to go up to 6, I don't think that's an issue. But I had one client said, I've got 20. Is that a problem? I said, well, yeah. It's as you start to expand the goals, it's almost the same as having no goals, because you're back to trying to do everything. There's a story about Steve Jobs where he was pushing for 5 benefits to be in the ad for a new product, and the marketing person wasn't getting through to him. And finally, they screwed up 5 pieces of paper, threw them at him, and said, catch. Well, he didn't catch any. And he said, all right, your point's made. We'll have one thing in the ad, right? Similar with focus, similar with 12 months. Then once you got your 12-month goals, let's suppose you've focused, and you've had that debate with yourself or with your coach, and you're like, all right, these are the things that matter. And if I get bonus time freed up or I achieve these goals, I'll pull out some other goals from the drawer. Then let's layer it, because 12 months is pie in the sky. 12 months doesn't mean anything to what I'm going to do today. So we bring it back. All right, 3 months from now, what does success look like in each of these areas? What are some milestones that I can celebrate, do the happy dance, call all my friends and say, I'm rocking this out? That's 3 months. But again, it's too far out to influence what I'm going to do tomorrow. So every week, this is a simple discipline, not always easy. Every week, I recommend people spend 10 minutes on setting their goals for the next 7 days. 7 days from now, this is what success looks like. This is what will have me feel really good about myself. It's a pretty cool thing to do. Even if you choose not to follow the actions. How cool. Every week, you got an action plan. I once, when I was doing this religiously, consistently, passionately. Okay. Yeah, it was like a religion for me for a while. I'm like, I must do this. I said a consequence. If I don't have my weekly action plan done by 1 o'clock on a Friday, then I pay $5 to someone I don't like. That was a consequence, and that got my attention. Because, for the first 2 or 3 weeks I was doing it, and then my alarm would go off, and I'd be like, oh, I'm busy. I don't want to do that. So I set the consequence, and that got me doing it. And then the last layer, let's suppose you do that. You put in let's suppose you pause the podcast recording right now, and you go and put time in your calendar to do your weekly action plan. And you set your alarm to go off to say, hey, do your weekly action plan. And you might set a consequence. I'll pay $5 to the re-election campaign to a politician I don't like. Right? That gets a lot of people motivated. But the next thing is, what are you going to do tomorrow? That's where the rubber really hits the road. What are you going to do tomorrow? Your 12-month goals, your 3-month goals, they influenced your seven-day plan. But what will you do tomorrow? And here's a really amazing question. If I was only allowed to do 2 things tomorrow, if that's all I did, what would they be? You don't even have to commit to them. Your brain is telling you what's most important. And then once you have those 2 things, you might put them on a couple of Post-it notes. And when you leave the office or the desk for the day, those Post-it notes go on. And then here's the next part, because people might write these things down and then they don't do them. Why don't they do them? Well, they wake up and they check email. Now they're gone for 2 hours. Then they got voice messages to get back to. They got text messages to respond to. Their kid wants something. Their husband or their wife wants something. They get a phone call. And then they wonder why they're not progressing at lightning pace towards their goals. Well, that's why. So I highly recommend that you at least try this out for 7 days. Choosing those two things the day before, say 4 o'clock, and you can set an alarm for it. And then when you wake up, have time blocked off in your calendar. Could be 1 hour, could be 2 hours. You might wake up even a little early and say, I'm going to crank out, I call them the needle movers, because they're going to move the needle in your business or your life. I'm going to do those 2 needle movers, and then I will take my phone off do not disturb mode. I'll take it off airplane mode. I will check email. I will check my messages. I will get back to people. I will train my family that until 11 a.m., please support me by letting me work if you're working from home. Or I'll train my staff. Until this point in time, I work on the stuff. It's focus time for me. After that, I'll come out. I'll say hello to everybody. If it's family, I'll hug everybody. If you're a touchy-feely person, you might come out and hug your staff. All right, I got it done. It can literally change your life if you implement any of what I talked about. If you actually go and implement all of it, it's highly probable that you will progress towards your goals at twice the speed.
Mm. One of the things, too, with what you're saying, your needle movers, to take that one step further, a friend of mine who is my producer of this podcast, what we do, and we haven't, and this is my fault, we haven't been as good as it lately because I've been going through a health scare, so I haven't been doing as much. But before that, we were every day texting each other 3 things that we plan on accomplishing the next day and whether or not we accomplished our 3 goals for today. And so every day we're following up to make sure these 3 things we did or did not get done. And so it helps reinforce, not only do you have accountability, but it reinforces me to, on a daily basis, look at what are my 3 needle movers per day.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing there is you implemented a structure.
Yeah.
I did one of the landmark courses that I did was called Communication Access to Power, something like that. And I did it. And one thing I got out of the course was if you have a goal, if you got something you want, don't rely on willpower each day. Don't rely on the universe poking you in the ribs on a Tuesday morning and say, hey, why don't you do a bunch of stuff on that goal? Don't rely on that because it doesn't work very well. What I got was what's a structure that will support you and hold you in this goal. And I'll throw down some examples of structures. What you just said, you had a colleague and you had a fixed time. That's a structure. I have a goal to have this book, Name That Mouse, out by January. So I said to my co-author, let's create a structure. What's that look like? And we decided we will have a Zoom call. Well, first of all, we would do the table of contents, and we committed to a time. And we reviewed each other's. So I had an extra person involved. It's not just David Wood. It's Shayna List as well. And then we've got the table of contents. So we've got our roadmap. And then every week we'll do a Zoom call. And we ask each other questions about that chapter. That's how we generate the content. And then I said to her, if you want, we could both commit to drafting each chapter before we do the next Zoom call as a structure. Otherwise, it could take 5 years. But why don't we do this? And so now we have a commitment. She sends me the draft and I have to review it before we get to the next Zoom call. This way, 8 weeks from today, we'll have 8 chapters drafted. So that's an example. Another example could be a vision board. You see it every day right up in front of you with pictures. Another example, say you want to get fit and roll a buddy. Join a gym. Sometimes when people hire me, I give them an option. I say, we can go monthly. You can just pay monthly if you want. Or you can commit to 6 months or 12 months. Pay up front. And if something changes and you don't want to continue, I'll refund you the unused portion. But once the money's down, people tend to show up in a certain way. In fact, someone once told me they reached out to a coach and said, the only way I'm willing to work with you is if I can pay for a year up front. Because I know myself. I know if I paid for a year up front, I'll show up for a year. Otherwise, life gets in the way, right? Life gets in the way. So I'm excited about this topic because I'm a systems geek. Create the structure that will pull you forward. Don't rely on willpower.
How do you figure out what that structure is?
Well, it depends on the goal. It really depends on the goal, and it depends how much you want it, and it depends how fast you want to go. So I'll use acting as an example again, since it's really strong in my life at the moment. I started looking for structures, and I went and audited an acting class, and I had a breakthrough on that one class. I actually cried in a scene. And all my life, I've wanted to be able to cry during an acting scene because I didn't have access to my emotions. And so I then just went and committed to a series of 4. But I want to go faster. So maybe I go and hire a personal coach just to work with me and get one-on-one attention. I'm going to go so much faster than working with 12 people. And then I went and auditioned for things. I joined a website and I started looking, and I got myself in a play, and then I got myself in an improv troupe. And every second day I go and apply for something else. You know, apply for 100 things, maybe get 5.
Yeah.
So it depends how fast you want to go and how important it is. I think ultimately, like Bill Gates said, everybody needs a coach. And there was a time in my life last year I had 5 coaches. I wanted to be better at dating, so I got a coach. I wanted to be better at my business, specifically branding. Went and got a business coach, worked with a coach. I didn't know much about energy and how to move energy in my body. Got interested in that. Hired an energy healer to work with me on that. So it's one of the fastest ways I know is just get personal attention, someone who's going to challenge you, and someone who's going to say, did you do the stuff that you said you wanted to do, or that you said you were going to do? That's a really simple structure. I think masterminds can be good too. It's just that, again, it depends on your budget and how fast you want to go. On a mastermind, you can get a bit lost, right? In a group, sometimes you can get lost. So having personal attention of someone who's going to track you, say, wait a minute, 3 sessions ago you said you really wanted this, and now it looks like you're doing that thing that has you hide and play small. Does that resonate for you? Right? You're not often going to get that in a group, but you're going to get a lot more in a group than you are usually just you. Mm-hmm. Just you trying to work everything out. And this is a problem, I think, in our culture. Like the Lone Ranger syndrome. There was a time when if you built a railroad with a consortium, you know, you got like 2,000 people together and build a railroad. Nice job. But you build a railroad single-handedly, you're a hero. Right? Now, I think it's changing a little bit, but I still have some Lone Ranger syndrome. I'm like very independent, self-driven, so I'm like, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to work it all out myself. Well, that can be really cool if that's the journey you want. If you want to go faster, more structure, more input, and actually personal attention.
That's good. You know, with the last few minutes that we have left here, I'd like to ask the same 3 questions, and let's hit these quick because I want you to have time to talk about some of the stuff that you're doing. In terms of negative self-talk, what do you currently struggle with?
I struggle with, and this is the same formula for almost everybody's negative self-talk. You should be doing X and you shouldn't be doing Y. So, for example, I have a vision of how my life should look, and it looks like that in a number of different ways, but it doesn't in others. So you should have a partner, David. You should be watching less television. It's funny, I just committed to 150 hours of rehearsal time, which is definitely going to limit the TV, but still the brain's like, you shouldn't be watching so much television. You shouldn't relying on a drink of beer or cannabis in the evening to relax. You should be using other things. So those are some things where I have the negative talk going through my brain.
What brings you peace?
When I can shift the negative talk, I use a process that Byron Katie created called the work. And when I can shift that talk and find what's happening right and welcome what's happening, then I can at least accept it, sometimes even embrace it. And that gives me peace.
What's the best decision you've ever made?
One thing that comes to mind is I had an interaction with a landlord who was living below me, and my boundaries felt so violated that I was having a panic attack, and even called the police to ask them for help in mediating what was going on. And I was at a decision point. I could be combative and get a lawyer involved, put a lock on the door, all sorts of things that I could have done. And instead, I asked the landlord if he would have a cup of tea with me in the garden. And I had a very vulnerable conversation with him. First, I chose to listen and get his world. And then I asked him if I could share some things. And I really told him how much I was struggling and how much I was trying. And he went from an enemy in my world to an ally. Mm. And I'm very proud of that. I think that was a very powerful decision to step into the discomfort, going back to deliberate discomfort. And I realized if I can do that with him in that situation, then it's possible with anybody.
Man, thank you so much for sharing that. Where can people follow you for more information?
I love that question. I think I love it because I like engaging. Because right now it's a bunch of like faceless, nameless people listening. And I love when people reach out and say, hey, loved you on that podcast, or I really got something out of it, or this is what I'm going to do out of that, or hey, I want to work with you. Can we see if we're a fit? I love stuff like that. So I want to give listeners a cheat sheet so you can get the checklist of what we talked about today and some things we didn't get to if you want to get twice as much done in half the time. If you want to get the trailer for the book, the preview we've already written for Name That Mouse, which is all about transparency and how you can be you in any situation. And if you want to check out coaching with me and see if we're a fit, I'll get on the phone with you and find out. It's not a fit with everybody, but if it's got legs, I'd love to work with you. And you can get all of those things at one special link that I created for listeners. It'll take you to a hidden page on my website. And the link is myfocusgift.com. myfocusgift.com will take you to this gift basket of goodies, and you can start engaging with me if that's what you want. I also have a podcast called Tough Conversations with David Wood. You might want to listen to that, but you can access everything at that one link.
Awesome. David, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I hope you have an amazing day.
Hey, thanks, Evan. My pleasure.
Take care.
I just wanted to recap some of the awesome lessons that I learned from this episode. In terms of planning things out for success, one of the things that we have to do is know our end desire, our end goal, and do the math backwards all the way, not just quarterly, but maybe even weekly, and that we are able to hold ourselves accountable to that. And we can do that by, like he said, writing a check to a political candidate we don't like, or writing a check, giving it to a friend and say, hey, you know what? If I don't do X, Y, Z, you can send this check off for me. Or just have an accountability partner in general. The other thing that really stuck out to me is him wanting to learn how to do new things. And the mindset of doing something new and throwing yourself into it and giving what you have to it. So for him, it was acting. For me, it could be music. For you, it could be something else. But then you create time and space around to do that new thing. And then maybe if you want to develop in it, you get more strategic and you get a coach. Or you get a friend who might be better gifted in that area than you, like to go work out or something like that. So you plan your success. And then also if you're wanting to do something new, which is similar to achievement, is that when you do something new, find a way to learn and grow as quickly as you can so that it'll be interesting and enjoyable. And finding something that you're passionate about. You can find a mastermind, a group coaching program, do one-on-one coaching, classes. So all these things that we talked about today, talk about the mindset of trying something new. And then as well as learning how to plan for success. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. I sure hope you got as much out of the program today as I did. Thank you so much. Take care, and God bless.